What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up? What up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
Would you say Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Rebel Radio. Today's guest is my man, the Professor. He is a star of the BallUp Street Basketball League. If you're into basketball and street ball, you know this dude. He was on the And1 tour for years. So he comes through the studio today to drop some knowledge on how he's built this amazing career, some of the ups and downs and things he's had to overcome. And I think it's a great interview. I hope you're going to enjoy it. And now, the Professor. Well, I'm excited to have the Professor here. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Last time we tried having you on your shoulder dislocated.
Oh, yeah, separated.
Oh, that sounds even worse.
Yeah.
It all sounds bad.
Everything all right now?
Oh, it's cool now.
Yeah.
It was a second-degree separation. So
Okay.
if you have a third degree, you got to have surgery. It's kind of a big thing. But it's more or less like a pulled tendon. It's just has chills.
Yeah, for sure. No fun, I'm sure, though.
Yeah, so it's all good now.
Yeah.
Right on.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Well, dude, you're the real thing. You're a street ball legend. Sitting up here, we haven't had any athletes yet on the show, so I'm excited to get to know you. And I've been following your story, and you know, we love having people on that have overcome some shit.
Thank you, man.
Which I think describes you really well.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's always adversity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I always like to start out just talking about how you got started and how, you know, how this path came together for you. Were you always playing basketball as a kid?
Yeah, actually, so my dad put me onto the game when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
So I was really young, and then I really just took to the game. Like, I would go to his city league games, his men's league games, and I would actually sit there and, like, watch the whole game as, like, a 3 or 4 year old. You know, normally when we bring little kids to the game, they go run around the halls or
for sure.
terrorize the bathroom or something. So I used to sit there and watch the whole game and just be really, like, intrigued by it. Yeah. And then by about 5th grade, actually, I knew I loved the game. My dad was my coach for, like, our AAU traveling team, stuff like that. And, yeah, it was everything. It was, like, my recreation. It was what I would do as, you know, as a relief. So frustrated or something. It was, you know, anytime I wasn't in school, basically I was playing basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And did you dream at the time of doing that professionally?
Yeah, I think for every hooper, you know, you want to be in the NBA.
Sure.
You know, that's what you grow up watching and idolizing. So at the time, yeah, I wanted to be in the NBA.
Yeah. And then when did you realize that that's maybe not the path?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I always wanted to be in the NBA, even up until I would say even in high school. You know, it's like, even though like my path wouldn't look like I was barely even gonna play any college ball. You know, as a kid, you kind of like a little, you know, overly dreaming at times.
Of course.
So I still thought I was gonna make the NBA, and then I remember being held back on the JV team as a junior when all my friends were going to play varsity. So that was like a big hit, you know, to my pride, my ego, everything else. So that was pretty humbling, but I still thought, you know, at some point I was going to overcome things. And NBA was a sight at that time.
Yeah.
And then I remember, I think it was shortly after my junior year started, I saw like the first And1 Mixtape. And that was my first intro to street ball. We had street ball courts in Oregon, but never like I was seeing it on the East Coast.
Sure.
And so
Did you know about Rucker and all the New York stuff, all the street ball happening?
That was actually my intro to it.
Okay.
So I liked a lot of like smaller guards in the NBA. I liked Tim Hardaway, and then I liked Allen Iverson when he came in the league, and they were like flashy type players. So I was already accustomed to that flashier guard style of basketball. And then when I saw what they were doing at Rucker and on the East Coast, I guess it triggered my imagination, you could say, to try to, I guess, get more flashy and take that to the next level. And for me, that was just fun, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like using my imagination with the game. And then, you know, stayed persistent. I still, you know, eat, sleep, drink basketball, and ended up transferring schools to a smaller school my senior year. There was only like 300 kids in my entire high school. So I got a chance to start varsity. Had a good year. Got like second team all state. And so I was really excited about that, and I thought that colleges were going to come knocking and letters were going to come in the mail, and then nothing came.
Right.
And it came down to an opportunity where it's like it came down to where the only opportunity I was going to get to play college basketball was going to be at a local junior college.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that I actually got on a local team in Salem, Oregon, was because my dad, who owns a jewelry store, he sold a wedding ring, an engagement ring, to the head coach.
Oh, wow.
So he kind of like politics with him, like, hey, my
Right.
son, he loves the game. He's
For
really
sure.
skilled offensively. He's pretty small, but, could you give him a look?
Yeah.
So he gave me a look, and then I ended up walking on the team as the last man
Mhm.
on my junior college team. And then just played 1 year. And then that following summer, I tried out
Mhm.
for what was then And1 Mixtape tour.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of how my career got started.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot of people, I mean, your story is probably not that different from a lot of kids growing up that, I played every day pretty
Mhm.
much until I was about 12.
Yeah.
And then I just got interested in other things. And,
Mhm.
but I think most people would have given up at some point,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because a lot of parents today, they ask me like, how many hours a day does their kid need to practice
Right.
to make the pros, or
Mhm.
what does their kid need to do in order to play professionally? And
Yeah.
what I've come to notice is there's a difference between liking the game a lot and actually
Mm-hmm.
having it as your passion.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, if it's your passion, you'll probably sacrifice like hanging with friends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wasn't as into the girls. I was more like, I shied away from that. So I
Mhm.
really was just basketball 24/7.
Yeah.
So I negated a lot of bad choices that could have been made
For sure.
just because it was my passion. I would rather just hang
Right.
out at the gym with my friends who like to do that full time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think, with all the diligence put into basketball, I think, God honored that in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is that what it takes? I mean, I think, like you said, kids have this idea that, like, you just feel like everything's just going to happen for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if you're a guard and if you're not like 6'9" or something, just extremely, out of this world gifted,
Mm-hmm.
the game's going to need to be a passion for you, because the skill set that you're going to have to build is going to have to be better than the millions of other kids that are trying to
Right.
play
Right.
college and then play professionally as well.
For sure.
So it's going to need to be a passion, because you need to put a crazy amount of time in, but it has to be
Mhm.
fun. It can't be looked at as hard work, otherwise
Right.
you're not going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that becomes the difference, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So were you conscious of that? Like, at what point?
Mm-mm.
No.
Never was conscious of that. It
Right.
it was just fun. So I just
Mhm.
looked at it as like, even if the dream was gone to play college, it was like, that's all I knew was fun up until that point. So I
Mhm.
still stayed at it. Because even that freshman year in college, I played like 5. I remember one game I got like 11 minutes. And that was like my biggest
Right.
playing game,
Right.
is because we were blowing the team out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or some guys on my team were injured.
Right.
And some games
They,
it
like,
was
put
close.
the little guy in.
Yeah, if it was close, I wouldn't even get in the game.
Yeah.
And then after that year, I remember it was the first time like I really hit the weight room. I was giving like 2 a days, waking up at 5 in the morning, getting up
Mhm.
500 shots, then working out the afternoon, then hitting the weights, and I started to like really just develop fast. Like my whole game changed like 180 in a
Mhm.
matter of like one spring, early summer.
Wow.
So by the time I tried out, and I was always really skilled offensively, but I got a little better on defense, a little more confident.
Right.
A lot of guys on my JUCO team were going Division II, Division I.
Mhm.
And then by like that summer, I was hanging with them. And so by the time I tried out from And1, it was just good timing.
Mhm.
It worked out perfect.
So now let's talk about And1 a little bit, because
Mhm.
you come up with this goal of going to the NBA in mind, and then you switch to And1, and it's obviously a different style of play.
Mhm.
It's a lot flashier and feels like more fun
Mhm.
on the court.
Mhm.
So how is that a tough adjustment?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I was always flashy. So I felt like it was meant to be for me to be there. And I really loved entertaining people with the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the whole street ball vibe is. We're trying to, like, even today on BallUp, we're trying to entertain the crowd with the game.
For sure.
Whereas like in the NBA or conventional basketball, you're trying to win championships, so you're trying to get the easiest bucket possible. You're trying to utilize mismatches, things of that nature. So a lot of the aspects of a regular game are put in. We're just trying to give you the ultimate highlight. So if I'm on the break, I'll probably give you the most entertaining highlight over the most efficient pass.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I'll try to go
Yeah.
for the craziest lob I could possibly go to, even though maybe I could just go bounce pass to somebody for a layup.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny because I think the perception, and definitely if you read the in the sports articles or whatever, like, perception is that the NBA is harder, like it's a higher level of play.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say, the NBA is still the top. It's the best players in the world.
Sure.
What a lot of people don't factor in is the size, the speed, and the explosiveness of the athletes are next level. So, like in the summer, I'll work out with NBA guys, and you definitely feel, especially when you get out there on the floor with them, you definitely feel the difference. There's less time to make good decisions.
Right.
So, like, your efficiency has to be higher. You got to think faster, and you just got to be that much more focused.
Right.
So, like, if I work out with them for a few summers and then go back and play where we're at, the game it's awesome because the game will, like, slow down for me.
Right.
Sure.
I feel I can do what I do. But the thing is, in our genre, like, there's a lot of extreme talent.
Right.
Usually, like, the guys that are known on the street ball circuit, they'll have, like, one part of their game or two parts of their game that are excellent, that are even better than some NBA aspects. So that's why they're there.
Right.
So it's like some guys on our team jump higher than players in the NBA. They could probably win the NBA dunk contest, even though they won't let them in.
Right.
Right.
Guys on our team can handle the ball better than 90% of the guards in the NBA.
Yeah.
So it's like it's usually like one or two parts of your game are like really exceptional. A lot of times guys just can't make the NBA because they don't fit a position. Like we have a guy named like Baby Shaq on our team, right? Extremely talented. He literally is like Shaq. He can post up guys that are like 6'9". He's only 6'3".
Wow.
And he kind of plays like a power forward, but he can also play a guard. He can shoot. So he's like crazy talented, but in the NBA he'd have to be a point guard.
Right.
And that's not really his style of game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
Sure.
there's a certain mold you have to fit, and a lot of guys just don't fit it exactly, even though they're extremely talented.
Yeah. No, I get it, and I remember seeing that one, for the first time. It was like, it's so much more exciing.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing against the NBA, right?
I appreciate it.
But it's a different, right? It's just,
Yeah,
it's
it's
funny.
fun.
I took my son, who's 6, a couple months ago to his first NBA game. We went to a Clippers game,
Sick.
and he was confused. Like he plays basketball, but we don't really watch it at home. And he was like, "What's all this? Like, why is there music and fire and girls dancing?" And and
That's a lot for
I mean,
first time experience.
He didn't mind it, but he was like, "I don't get it. Like, this isn't basketball." And but it struck me, kind of what you're saying is like, they got to build all this exciting stuff around the game because, like you said, the game is just fast and it's focused.
Yeah.
And it's almost like And1 incorporates some of that energy into the game itself. And so I got the appeal of it immediately when I saw it, back in the day.
I appreciate it.
What do you think it's meant to culture?
I think our style of play, I would say it's the most exciting form of basketball that there really is. I think that, when it was on ESPN2, that was, it changed the game.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed is even like the flashy moves that they do today, the inspiration or whoever like originated that or put that on the map was always in our genre. If you look at the NBA All-Star game, and you'll see like, everybody's trying to kind of like show out that weekend in that game. Like some of the moves would be like off the head, or between the legs, or they'll do something that they actually got from watching guys on the street. So I'd say it was a game changer on many levels.
Yeah, for sure. And talk about BallUp. So how is that different than And1, and what's happening with BallUp right now?
So BallUp has a number of things going on. In this past summer, they started a thing called the $1 Million Challenge. So they had 7 summer leagues nationwide, and this is away from so you got the touring aspect that we do. This is the summer league aspect. This was on ESPN2, where there was $1 million divided up for different prizes, I'll say, like nationwide. So it's like each winner in the market will get a certain amount of money. Each MVP will get a certain amount of money. Then the teams that win from all those markets will all come to LA to compete. Try to find one winner for the summer, and the winner of that would win $500,000.
Nice.
So this past summer, New York won. They won the prize. But then we have the touring aspect, which is the street side of things. And we tour all summer in the U.S., and then away from that, we'll do international territories. And then we have the apparel launch coming July 1st
Okay.
this summer. So basically what it is, it was more centered. It was started with the tour. With And1, it started with the clothing.
Right.
It was all about the trash talk
Yeah.
t-shirts. They were the first ones to do the long shorts. A lot of people don't remember their first
Yeah,
one to
for
do
sure.
shorts below the knee.
Yeah.
And so it was really centered in the clothing. And then what we did was really originally it was just to put together to market the clothing.
Mhm.
You know, give them something exciting that related to basketball, and we'll dress it in our clothes, and then we'll sell it. But then it sort of got its own following, the tour side. So with BallUp, they took that following, they kind of like founded the company with the tour.
Mhm.
And so they're trying to make an all-encompassing lifestyle brand that kind of was like started with the street ball.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's the goal.
And then but now the clothing is part of it as well.
Yeah, the clothing is part of it as well, and launches July 1st.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Oh,
Seats
nice.
Here,
Nice.
Right on.
a few different things. So
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's interesting. You think of And1 like, and like you said, it started with the clothing. I think in some ways, it's really synonymous with hip hop.
totally.
And, like you said, the long shorts, like it's hard to imagine, hip hop guys in like the short shorts.
Yeah.
Which we were. I grew up, with
Yeah,
that
you
as
gotta
my
watch
culture, and like at 11, you're showing off your thighs, and but then I think in the streets that started changing, right? And then And1 was the first sort of brand that really brought those things together.
Yeah, it was interesting because I had never even thought of like a hip hop track playing over the top of like a highlight mix.
Right.
I think, that was just like a perfect match made, So when
Yeah.
I put that together, people just went crazy off that because now you sort of like this style of basketball, but now you could live in it because you could wear the clothing, you could listen to music,
Yeah,
you could dress that way, it's a whole package deal.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that related to your own brand? And I know you do all kinds of stuff outside, and I've seen you call yourself a basketball entertainer, which I think is really interesting. So how do you apply that thinking, about the whole lifestyle to the Professor brand?
Oh, to my brand? So I've narrowed it down to where the kids, for me, they really tag me as, a ball handler, right? Crazy handles. Handles is still like super popular, just like
Yeah.
it was when the mixtapes first came out.
Sure.
So my whole hashtag is got handles.
Mhm.
And the way I let kids live in that is I started making these videos on Instagram about a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And what I would do is I would do like a crazy mix, either playing against somebody, or I would just myself. I would do some crazy combo in the park by myself or in the gym or whatever. And then at the end, I always get the hashtag. I'd be like, "Got handles." It's kind of like that "Got milk"
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
It's good.
but it's got
great.
handles. And
Yeah.
then the kids, it started to catch on. At first, I was just doing it to promote my dribbling programs, like tutorials, right? These online tutorials. But then they started just doing it on their own. They're making their own videos. It's kind of like, they would like tag me in them or whatever. Like they wanted me to like repost it. So I started reposting a few of them, and then it caught on crazy. And now like it's its own thing. It has its own page.
Yeah.
Kids make every day. We get at least 5 to 10 a day. We repost like.
Does
we
the
got
hashtag, just because we're in marketing, so did you see like a rise in consumption of all your overall videos or sales or whatever you were doing,
Yeah.
like the business objective because of the handle?
Yeah, I think so. I think me really keying in on just like the ball handling side of thing was best because, if you look at all of basketball, the NBA and college have regular conventional basketball on lock.
Right.
So
Sure.
if you're talking about Showtime basketball, you got the Globetrotters and you got us, but our stuff is, Globetrotters is more for the kids. It's like,
Right.
It's Disney. It's a rehearsed game.
Yeah.
So I think we can own the market of Showtime basketball that's really real and raw, and they like that. And I noticed, when I started utilizing the handles, people wanted to like live in it as opposed to just observe it. And say,
Which is
"Oh, this
amazing.
cool."
Yeah.
So it's similar to like what we were talking about.
Absolutely.
They could like live in it themselves.
For sure.
Yeah.
When did you realize that? What's that? Because that wasn't the plan at first, right?
I had these programs called Superhuman Dribbling.
Yeah.
And so I was I want to put out a program that just showed exactly how I got handles, there's many ways to get handles, but I just showed them my way. And so I was trying to think of a hashtag catchy, but Superhuman Dribbling is super long,
Right.
like pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then SHD, they're not going to know what that is.
Right.
That could have been.
Yeah,
something
somebody's
else.
going to mess up the spelling. and
Exactly.
all that.
So came up with got handles, and then I realized it was bigger than just a one-time marketing thing for the
Yeah.
program. So
Yeah.
That's
just
great.
embrace it. So it's more or less, it was an accident. I feel like
Yeah.
it was meant to be.
No,
So-
that's how a lot of the success stories are that we hear.
Mhm.
That like just kind of like spread virally. It's all because somebody was just doing something really natural to them.
Yeah.
I have a question more along your just crafting your skill. How much is it, or how big of a priority is it for you to train with major NBA athletes or see them or kind of build that network to your personal
It's a
branding?
good question. In years prior, it wasn't as much of a priority. I would work out on my own in the gyms that I had been working out at my whole life. And then 4 or 5 years ago, I met a good friend of mine now, but he's an NBA trainer, this guy named Mike Pemberthy. And every summer out here, he'll have his guys fly in, kind of like live in LA and work out with him for a full summer. And being that we had built that relationship and friendship, he would always be like, yeah, come work out with my guys. So I go up there and work out with them. Since I did that a few years ago, then I've made it a priority. It's been
Nice.
great. But usually with NBA guys, they're on their own schedule. It's
Right.
like, especially during their season, they're completely obligated to that. And then
Sure.
in the summer, I was living in Oregon, and I was living in a small town, Salem, Oregon, which is an hour south of Portland.
Yeah.
So I didn't see many NBA guys. But now living
Right.
in LA since 2007, you see them all the time. So
Right.
Why'd you
What-
move to LA?
originally, I moved to LA because I did this movie called Ball Don't Lie,
Yeah.
and actually never released. But
Is that right?
yeah, I had the lead in this movie. I was all excited. I remember I told everybody about it.
Yeah.
It's a
Welcome,
big thing,
welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah, I was young. I was really high, real green to everything. And then it never released. And then I was trying to parlay like with what I had done on ESPN and the whole streetball thing into more like entertainment, like an acting type situation. But then it just didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be. Hoops ended up taking up all my time. And yeah, but I loved LA. I loved the sunshine year round. In Oregon, it rains every day.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I made some friends out here.
Sure.
Some solid friends, and
Yeah.
I figured it was the next
It's the
move.
best place
Nice.
to be.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so I know you did a couple movies.
Mhm.
Is that still?
Still something I want to pursue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even now I'm starting to realize that, after basketball, it's like, where do you go? Do you go to coaching? Do you go to training?
Right.
Or is it more going to be in like an entertainment tip? So right now I still dabble in everything, and I'm trying to slate things more toward that entertainment tip, really
Okay.
utilizing the YouTube platform.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, I came up with this series, or a friend of mine who's actually here right now, came up with this series, the Spider-Man basketball.
Yeah.
And-
That's amazing. I watch it with my son.
Oh, thanks for checking it out, man.
Yeah.
So this man over here came up with it. But,
Nice.
yeah, so in
So
doing
explain what it
that-
is for people that
Yeah,
haven't seen
so basically it's Spider-Man. It's like a video comic book, and it's Spider-Man who plays basketball instead of fighting.
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like the parallels have always been made with like superheroes in sports,
Right.
and especially basketball. It's like, oh, he was the hero of the game, or
Sure.
his hops were crazy, look like he had superpowers or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Right.
Well, Shaq believes he really is Superman, right?
yeah, there you go. So, yeah, so putting those together, this just like worked. And we
Yeah.
really started it out, it was just going to be like a prank. And then we decided to make it a video comic book to kind of string people along instead of doing the same thing every time. And then what that told me was that like mixing my style of basketball with things like pop culture, like entertainment, was like a home run.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then decided to build upon that. And I'm going to expand on that and then try to take things in more of a entertainment way. But I think I always dabble in like teaching the game and if coaching in the future in the long run, you never know. But
So are those videos? Actually, we were driving down the street the other day, and there's that Deadpool movie coming out,
Mhm.
and my son says, "Oh, that's that guy from the basketball,"
Mhm.
and like that's how he knew because he never heard of Deadpool,
oh, sick.
and so he knew about it from you.
Yeah.
Sick.
So is that how staged is that?
Mhm.
Like, do you just really go out and play strangers in a Spider-Man uniform costume?
Yeah, it's not staged.
Not staged at all.
Well, one of them, the latest episode is the only one that's choreographed. But
That's the Deadpool.
the one with Deadpool,
Right.
Yeah, the last scene on that one's choreographed,
Okay.
and then the new one's choreographed. But other than that, the first 6, basically, I would just go to the court. The first time is the camera crew, they would go to
So
the court
funny.
early,
Yeah.
and they would act like they were just shooting around,
Sure.
and then I would just come up with a basketball. I usually like walk through a playground with a bunch of kids,
Uh-huh.
so they'd follow me over to the court,
Oh my God, that's so
and
funny.
it'll start playing, and then after I get done, I'll just leave.
Yeah.
Don't take off the mask or anything.
Yeah.
That's
So,
amazing.
Yeah, so it got to be where it's fun, and then after a while, we didn't have to hide the camera crew because people were happy just to be a part of it.
Right.
And have fun with it. And
Yeah.
then the reason we choreographed some of them is because like we want to do a villain showdown.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like how you do a villain showdown to make it real. It's like
Right.
you try to drive a story and do things.
Mm-hmm.
So even when it was choreographed, people still took to it, which we were excited about
Right.
because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
funny.
sure.
How do you make these decisions?
I guess it just starts with like imagination, creativity.
Do you have a team that you guys kind of sit around and
I do.
meet weekly, and you guys are like, all right, who's got the best new idea?
I do. It's really just me and my boy Rob. Shout out to Rob, Set Free Monroe. We usually just brainstorm like ideas, and we both have lived the b-ball culture for a long time.
Right.
And, we look at viral videos. We try to get inspiration from that. And I remember one day he just came up with like a cool prank idea. He said, "Hey, you know what would be hot is if you wore like a superhero mask and you went out and just played people one-on-one." And I was like, that would be hilarious, that'd be funny. So I'm laughing about it, and I was like, all right, we'll do it. But I'm thinking it would just be a video that would do some numbers, do a little better than my other ones, and be
Right.
funny. And then it really just took off.
Right.
And so then we have a good time being creative and try to come up with new storylines and different things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
yeah.
did you just was that video like just put it up on with your following and it just spread viral like that? Or was there more partners involved in getting that distributed?
Oh, no, it was like an organic, raw video, which was crazy. Yeah, I think that, I guess it was interesting because a lot of people have agencies and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
put a
Yeah,
lot
they
of
like
money
push it
behind
and put money
promoting
behind
stuff.
Sure. They
And
should
I
hire
didn't
you,
even
maybe.
know, I didn't even know that organically stuff still went off like that.
Right.
Right.
So
It
Nobody
usually does
believes it. Nobody believes
yeah,
it.
so
Yeah.
yeah, God looked out. We had like 6 million views in a week or something like
That's
that.
crazy. So would you say that
That's
that's because your fan base and your audience is that hyper engaged?
They are now. I think it was because of that.
Yeah.
So that was a
Right.
few years ago, and that kind of like ignited my whole like digital platform from Instagram to
Right.
YouTube to
So
Facebook,
does that feel
all
like that's the motive when you're thinking about new ideas? Is it what can I serve? Well, we heard the term super serve your core base, but like
Yeah.
is that the priority? Like what do these guys want to see next? And then keep just giving it to them.
Yeah, so I guess trying to captivate more of a mainstream crowd. For the longest time, I had like a niche audience who really they like street ball. They like raw, like hit up the courts, do your thing, and then they like the highlights from that. So
Okay.
I was trying to expand and try to grasp more people that weren't necessarily just love that style of basketball. So in combining things with pop culture, I found that even somebody who maybe just like Spider-Man can watch it and be like, oh, this is funny.
Right.
So I'm trying to like broaden the audience, but also satisfy that core.
Sure.
Right.
And do you worry about that? Like, is the core gonna like this versus, like, how do you think about that stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Those are some of our conversations, and I think in order to expand, you always gotta like take a risk, you
Yeah.
know. So I think even in like the last episode when we choreographed it, the thought was like, well, is this gonna be too fake? You
Sure.
know, are they gonna
Right.
embrace it like they embrace a movie scene
Mm-hmm.
or whatever? I think what we found is some of the core they didn't quite like it as much,
Yeah.
but then like the mainstream didn't care at all.
Mhm.
So the numbers still went rampant.
Right.
So
Right.
I think at the end of the day, I'm still putting out other videos that'll show
Right.
like my regular grind, so they can be satisfied in that and try to
Yeah.
grab new people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know one of the other things you do, you travel around the world and you play kids all over the world.
Blast. Oh, those are like clinics. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I saw somewhere you got malaria.
Oh yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah, it was crazy. That was actually the last
It's crazy.
And1 event I did before returning to BallUp.
Yeah.
It was in 2010. We went to Angola, Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and I was excited. It was the first time in Africa, and the one thing I had thought about, or a lot of people think about, was that we had to get shots and take the pills. But
Right.
for some reason, we didn't do it beforehand. I was wondering why we weren't notified. So when we got to the airport, we got notified, like in Angola, and the event was sponsored by the airline, so we kind of had like a VIP pass through the airport.
Mhm.
And a lot of guys on our team, they were like, we don't want to get shots and all this. Like, screw it. This is a
Yeah.
quick trip. Like, we don't need needles and all that. And,
Yeah.
and me in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, it's probably safe to get it. Like, I don't love it, but we can
Yeah,
go ahead and
yeah.
chop
Right.
that one up just so we don't have any
Yeah.
damages. But
Right.
the way they made it sound was that it's like, oh, it's no big deal. You're here for a few days. Like, we'll get in and go.
Right.
So I was like, whatever. So we scooted right through the airport, went to a hotel, no nothing. The day before the game, I had a clinic outside. It was like 110 degrees. It was crazy.
Jesus.
A bunch of these guys came through. They even had on, like, some of them had on sweats, like out there in the heat. But they were cool. That's just normal for them.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? So we go through the whole clinic, a couple hours, and playing with them. It was a blast. And then I remember coming away with it. I had like a few marks on the back of my hand. It looked like some like bites, right? Some bug bites or something. So I was just like, oh, it's interesting. Didn't think much of it. Next day, had the game, you know, played the game or whatever. And then that night I went to sleep. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and like, I'm like, why is it soaking wet? Like moving around. My whole bed, my entire bed was
That's
soaked.
crazy.
It looked like the bed had been dipped in the pool and then set back down. It was all my sweat. So I had like this vicious fever that I was like unimaginable.
Yeah.
And then I woke up the next day. I guess I was okay moving around. I was really dehydrated. And they asked me like, do you want to go get checked out? Like, you know, I was like, yeah, I might as well. I don't really feel that good. So I go in and I remember the lady, she was speaking the native language and she was looking at my back of my hand. She was talking to somebody else, and as she's doing it, her eyes got really wide, like, and I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? You know, let me know. And so,
Oh man.
found out it was malaria, and I had to stay there for like 2 weeks.
What?
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's
How
crazy.
long was the trip supposed to be for?
It was only for like 4 days or something
That's
like that,
crazy.
and then
Were
the
you
rest of the team
hospitalized
left.
for that 2 weeks?
What do you say?
Were you hospitalized for that
Yeah,
2 weeks?
yeah. So you can't leave the hospital if you
That's
legally.
crazy.
Yeah.
And then it was weird because they had like old, you know, their technology isn't really on our level, like the medical equipment.
Right.
Right.
So like when they were giving me the shot, you know, normally we have like the needle and then the tubes and then the little plastic beakers that you put the blood in.
Right.
They just had like a needle and a plastic, like a little tube. They didn't have the things that you slide on,
Yeah.
the little beakers.
Yeah.
So they would just like squeeze your arm
Oh,
and then
man.
the blood like squirts out of these
Oh my
things.
God.
And sometimes they would come in the middle of the night and take your blood like that. It was a mess, but
Wow.
Yeah.
praise God that, you know, we're okay now.
Well, I usually
crazy
like to
how you're
ask
like-
people what's been your toughest day, but I think maybe you just told us.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, as far as like touring on the road, that was probably the craziest thing.
Any other surprises? Just playing basketball around the world.
Man, there's been a lot of.
Do you have a favorite place?
I got a few favorite places. I like. Recently, I actually went to the south of France. Went to Monaco.
Yeah,
that
so
was
beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Recently went to Costa Rica, which is unbelievable, and then I've been to Dubai, I've been to Australia like 20 times.
Oh, wow.
Love Australia.
That's a
Yeah.
long flight.
And then Dubai was pretty cool too.
Nice.
So those are some of my favorites. It's hard for me to always narrow down one.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. Yeah. And is there somewhere that the basketball, like you're surprised with the basketball skills?
Everywhere.
Really?
That's what's crazy. I was talking to people. I don't know if some people are aware, but like, there's always good players wherever you go. There's always gonna be some good guys. Whether you're in Germany, whether you're in China, Japan, the Philippines.
Yeah.
There's always like some pros there and pretty dang decent. So
Sure.
I don't get surprised anymore. I always expect like some good competition wherever we
Right.
go.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you ever like look at videos to see what the environment's like, or you just kind of let yourself be surprised?
Yeah, I have before. I think.
Is the game different as you travel around?
Yeah. And
Like,
that's
is there an Australian style of play?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There is. That's what I like. I think, one thing I've taken joy in is kind of like experiencing the basketball culture in those other places and seeing like their style.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, you know, Europeans tend to be like really skilled, you know, very, very fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Chinese are very like rough and might give you like some cheap shots.
Sure.
You know,
I would not
South
picture.
America is not as skilled but very, very rugged.
Right.
So yeah, everybody has.
Yeah.
It's
I picture
cool.
I
Yeah.
picture Australia a bunch of like Ken Barbie dolls running on a court.
You would think so. It's actually really diverse in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think it's more or less like
Everybody's
white
so good
people
looking
with
there.
blonde hair that
Right.
go hunt crocodiles. Or
Yeah.
something, you know, but no, it's actually very diverse.
Where's the most impressive?
The most impressive? I would still say certain parts of Europe and the U.S. I
Yeah.
think still rule for basketball. But what's impressive is the Chinese leagues are becoming really good. Like NBA players, you know, if
Yeah.
contract doesn't make ends, we'll go over there because
Sure.
the economy's so good and they're able to pay big. But also that's helped the skill level rise.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, in America, we might not think some Asians would be the greatest at basketball, but China has some great players.
Yeah.
Are you scouting talent at all? Just
BallUp.
Yeah, just because naturally you'd see somebody and you're like, wow, that guy's so talented. And being older and gone through like your whole life playing basketball, I feel like you would definitely call it out.
Oh, definitely,
Right.
definitely. Especially with BallUp too. So a lot of the people who had owned And1 internationally, they've now bought into BallUp. But this is like really recent, within the last few months. So with those territories starting a company, what we're going to be doing is the same thing we do in the States, where we look for new talent every year. And there's actually a contest that runs throughout our tour, same way I got on, where one person can win a contract with the company. So we've done that the last like 4 or 5 years in the States with BallUp. And now for the first time we're going to do it internationally, which I think would really be cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So there'll be like BallUp teams in those territories, and then they'll have the possibility to even join our team.
Yeah.
And so yeah, scouting has always been something big, because
Yeah.
we would always look in the past for like people to play against when we would come into that territory, and there would kind of be like people that would live in that country as like an ambassador or whatever.
Right.
So that was the scouting aspect. And then now with social media, I'm always scouting, looking for people to bring them into the God Handles family, or
Yeah, that's awesome.
possibly do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know, we hear a lot now about like crowdsourcing, you know, but you know, that's kind of what And1's been doing from day one, right? And
Yeah.
you know, you can't just show up at an NBA game and get on a team. But so how, I don't know if you know this, but like how has it worked out for them? Obviously they got you, so that's been a big plus for the league. But what about the other players that have come through that system? How's that worked out?
It's been incredible. I mean, talk about guys' lives completely changed, you know.
Yeah.
Had a passion for basketball, didn't work out in college, maybe,
Right.
you know, maybe they got in trouble, had a kid, you know, whatever the case may be, but extremely talented, you know, could play on the top pro level. So now it gave them an outlet to actually
Yeah.
make basketball a career.
Which is awesome.
So we have, you know, a guy out of Phoenix named G. Smith, who's got a big following now. He's popular. He's been touring with us the past 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been great. So
Right.
there's the guy that won this past summer was actually, he was amazing. He's 5'5". This kid, his nickname is the Mosquito.
Okay.
He's like the quickest player you've ever seen, right? He's 5'5", very skilled.
Yeah.
But you know the strength of his game is defense.
Yeah.
And it's cool because he's got like MVP of like his ABA in Atlanta. He's got MVP of the summer league for years, but he really had an outlet, and nobody would give him a shot. He's 5'5".
Yeah.
Overseas, they want, you know, they're looking for big bodies, looking for guys to come in and give numbers, and he's good enough to do it, but it's just, they're scared to take a risk.
Sure.
He's a small 5'5".
Right.
Yeah.
So now he's with us and he's doing his thing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I find that so interesting that, like, you know, like you said, there's, you know, you'd look stupid if you brought on a player to your team, you know, that's 5'5", and he doesn't work out, right? And so, you know, I think in the NBA, like, in that environment where the stakes are really high, they have to make really safe choices.
Yes.
And they overlook a lot of opportunities. Like, who knows, that guy might be great. You might be amazing in the NBA, right? But they're going to look at the statistics and just say, okay, that's too risky of a choice to make. And so that opens up opportunities for BallUp or for whoever to, like, do things a little bit differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And some of those guys, some of their games just fit our style of play, you know, maybe stream hops or
Yeah.
ball handlers, you know, whatever the case. So.
Are you a risk taker in other areas of life? Like, you've kind of put all this, everything into basketball, and, you know, like I said, there was probably some safer choices along the way.
Yeah. I would consider myself way more conservative, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe with basketball, some of my content.
You save it all up for
take
that.
some risks, but yeah, I'm more or less more conservative, probably.
Yeah.
Is basketball going to be forever? You know, like, is this all you're focused on for now? Is there anything
Well, I'm
else?
trying to pave the way for a future. So, like I said, parlaying things more into entertainment. I've done acting stuff for like 10 years now.
Okay.
So, I don't actually like take acting classes like I did my first 5 years out here, but I would like to sort of like go back into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what some of my content is kind of reflective of that. And then, like I said, teaching the game, I think, will always be something to dabble in.
Right.
But you know, as far as forever, I like some of the small production stuff we do. So like producing, like writing.
Yeah, there's so much stuff.
Yeah. So I think basketball's kind of like the center point. But
Yeah.
so I think things at least what I can envision now would be centered around basketball, but you never know what the Lord has for the future. So
Right.
Have you had mentors help you out along the way?
yeah, that's some great mentorship.
What's the most important thing somebody's taught you?
Man, one thing in basketball that I found really key is to not get too high and not get too low. So it's like, you go on a nice, for example, you go on a nice winning streak. Don't act like you won the NBA championship. If
Right.
you have some trials and some adversity, some setbacks, you don't act like your career's over.
Right.
And I see players all the time that do both.
Mhm.
I remember back in the day when we used to lose some games. And1, like it's all real, but we had a very talented team, like all stars with street. So we'd win 90% of the games. When we lost, everybody panicked. Like corporate would act like the tour's over. Guys would act like jobs in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not working out. We need a new guy. Everybody would panic. So I think that's really unhealthy as a player. So
who helped you get some
to learn
perspective
that?
on that?
Actually, originally that was something I was taught at a very young age. I had this guy who started training me. I was in 5th grade, and he kind of taught me. He kind of planted the seed for all my ball handling. This guy by the name of Rodney Howard. He was an awesome trainer, and he was a small guy. He was like 5'9", but he played Division I basketball at Oregon State University. So I started working with him when I was in 5th grade, and I actually got a lot of b-ball wisdom from him. And then my pops as well. Somebody who just loved the game. He works hard,
Yeah.
and so yeah.
I think that lesson is true of business. Like my fiance runs his own business, and he treats it like he has that same exact attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't, just because they had a good month, he's not like running with that and thinking he can just go out and blow all his money.
Not invincible after.
Yeah, no. It's
So is that just-
it's a good lesson.
Is it instinctive now, or do you have to catch yourself sometimes?
I think still have to catch myself.
Yeah.
Still
So what's that conversation like?
with myself.
Tell us those intimate details.
Yeah, I think it even can boil down even to like one game, right? If you have 20 points in the first half,
Yeah.
you can subliminally get complacent, So
Sure.
like I find myself having to be like, all right, well, we still got another half. We still got to stay aggressive, be alert. It's just far from over, So that's I guess that's kind of like a micro situation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes even if you're on a long tour, say you're overseas for like, 10 games, you may have a great game the first like 4 or 5 games, it may be going well, you're having a good time, but then you'd be like, all right, we still got to grind, we still got to focus. A lot of times when you travel, you get tired. Like sometimes
Right.
I'll show up to the game like dead tired because we got an all-night flight,
Mm-hmm.
or a lot of times this is a situation you get to a city and you think you're gonna rest because you just came from a different country, but you don't. You just go promo all day,
Right. Yeah.
and then promo all day the next day. And you're like, when are we gonna rest?
Sure.
Yeah. But you
Right.
don't. Then you get to
Right.
the game and it's like, all right, you gotta get focused. Let's get it together. So yeah, I was constantly reminding myself.
Yeah. Sure.
That's a good lesson. So teaching or coaching is going to be something you're going to do more of. What's the most important lesson a coach can impart onto like a team or like an individual you're mentoring?
Or an individual, oh my gosh. There's so many facets to the game, I would say it's really hard for me to pick one thing that would be most important,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what I tell the kids now, honestly, a lot of kids are like, they're nervous or anxious about what the outcome of something will be. And it sounds real generic, but I kind of give the message of, hey, I think you honor God if you just leave everything on the floor. You give it your 100% effort,
Mm-hmm.
with everything, 100% preparation before, 100% effort on the floor, and throughout everything you're doing, and then no regrets because you went your hardest.
Yeah.
That's one core message I'm always having to relay because a lot of kids commonly, which is ironic, it was just interesting, is that they always ask me, they talk about how I'm so nervous, like how do I get to, how do I
Right.
approach this, how do I go about it? So that's something I say constantly, but so much of the game is hard to narrow down.
Right.
Yeah.
What about some of that, you said it wasn't when you were playing basketball in college, like you were just focused on the game. You were like sort of ignorant when you came on. You're just like, I'm
totally.
going to play basketball. I might go to the NBA, right? How much of that do you notice you pick up on the kids and you just kind of let them ride that ignorance? Because for you, it kind of fueled so much of your passion.
Yeah. I try to. Sometimes I wish I would have had good perspective. So I try to always relay honesty, but like encourage at the same time.
Right.
So a lot of kids are overly confident, thinking they're going to make the NBA,
Right.
this, that, and the other, and it's very far from reality. And they might not even have a passion for the game.
Right.
So they're not even putting in the right amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that like really just being honest with them, but not doing it in a way that's detrimental to them,
Right.
continuing to pursue
Soul crushing.
is good. So be encouraging, but also giving them perspective of just what's out there, what you're going to be looking at coming ahead, getting to college, what type of workouts you're going to have to be, investing time in, and each step of the way, just making them more aware of it, but also encouraging them, hey, stay at it. You might want to look into this.
Right.
This is going to be good for you. Just so other guys are talented out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you think though, like, you're kind of saying like, you need to have a plan B, but
Sure.
is that sort of irrational optimism important? Is that necessary?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Get you there?
Yeah, that's the question.
I don't know. I felt like my path was meant to be.
Yeah.
I don't think I would tell somebody to spend all their time, put all their chips in b-ball.
Mm-hmm.
Only because if you look at by the numbers, only
Absolutely.
a few, a small percentage of basketball
Right.
players. I can't remember. I've seen the statistics before. It's alarming.
Oh,
The small percentage
yeah,
of basketball players that will
absolutely.
actually even play college basketball from
Right.
junior college to D1.
Right.
There's a very small percentage there.
Yeah.
And then there's a very small percentage that will actually go from there and actually play for a living somewhere, whether that's overseas, NBA,
It's like winning the lotto.
street ball.
Yeah.
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 So I would always encourage education. So putting education first. I didn't.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm amazed that God honored all the diligence I put into basketball because I didn't
Sure.
Right.
didn't utilize studies like I should have.
But that's kind of what I wonder. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in hindsight,
Mhm.
it sort of makes sense. But
I think for most kids, you should put education first because
Sure.
at the end of the day, it's like b-ball is one of those kind of like shoot for the stars type
right,
career choices.
Yeah.
Like making
Right.
music or you want to be Brad Pitt.
Absolutely.
It's
Right.
not gonna happen. So
But-
you need that
Right.
that plan A, and keep that as a hobby. And if that can ever be the plan A, then scoot over in time.
But like
Yeah.
when you see, we've interviewed a dozen artists,
Mhm.
and they all have given up everything
Mm-hmm.
to just do their skill.
Yeah.
And there is no plan B. Then they all
Mhm.
say, like, what is the plan B? They're like, I don't know a plan B because this is all I know. And I
Mhm.
feel like you kind of have to just have plan A.
Yeah, I mean, but
because
then it's interesting because there's a whole bunch of people where it didn't work out for.
Absolutely.
And probably many of those, and then you don't hear about those
Right.
because it's kind of like shameful where people,
Yeah, yeah.
we kind of sweep
Yeah.
those under
Yeah,
the
of
rug
course.
and then go the other way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting that most people that do, a lot of times there is no plan B and they just go for it. But I don't know. I would say
I don't know.
to help that person.
I don't think
Yeah.
we're encouraging people to drop
Yeah.
out of school
Yeah, no, I know.
on
No,
this show, but
But as
I-
far as their aspiration.
but there is something to that, right? Like to just being all in.
Right.
And
Mhm.
sometimes, against,
It'll show your dedication level.
yeah, something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible to get there
Without
with
the all in.
if you have a really strong plan B. That's like,
Yeah.
because
And
I
y-
think it's probably so tempting to give up
Mm-hmm.
at different points,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. A lot of times now when I'm looking at people's stories and different things, what I'm starting to realize is persistence, like diligence is always honored, but also just the persistence.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you stick at something long enough
Yep.
and continue to improve in that, a lot of times that can work out. for
Right,
you
but
in the
that's
long
true.
run.
That's
Yeah.
true of everything. I mean, that's constant business lessons we share with each other and our clients and our, it takes a lot of persistence.
Yeah,
and
which
that-
is easier said than done. So
Right.
How do you track your improvement?
I track my improvement through social media. Social media now because I'm always about like branding.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think in the past, I always made it a goal of mine, even though, I'm continuing to do the same thing, is that I want people to think like, oh, he's got better this year, So I'm always still trying to improve my game every year. I think, even up until the last few years, I think every year you could say he's a little bit better at this, a
Right.
little bit better at that. And I think over the course of time, you really can observe it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about branding and your own brand, obviously, a big outlet for athletes is endorsements and brand partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you paying attention to that? Obviously, you have the BallUp, relationship,
Yeah.
but beyond that, how much are you thinking about that, and what do you think makes a good fit for another brand with your brand?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, I'm thinking about it tons.
Yeah.
Like BallUp is the greatest fit because it's a b-ball,
Mm-hmm.
merch,
Sure.
clothing and apparel, right? So that makes the most sense. Just signed a deal with this wristwear company, the Deuce brand.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making the got handles, bands. Everybody likes wristwear, whether it's watches, bands, whatever
Yeah.
the case. What also has fit in the past is like food and drink. I did a bunch of stuff with Mountain Dew over the years.
Okay.
Did a KFC campaign last year, 2 years ago, something like that. Basketball,
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of stuff with Wilson, even currently.
Yeah.
Just got done with the Wilson X campaign. It was like new basketball that came out that like tracked your shooting progress.
Oh,
via
yeah.
app.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, all things that kind of go hand in hand with the culture, right?
Right.
So, clothing, merch, food, drink, basketballs, training. I got power hands. These gloves you wear. It's like these weighted gloves. This new technology they came out with that you dribble with.
Wow.
And it decreases your dexterity. Take it off. And there's an extreme influx of the
Really?
increase in the dexterity. It's
Wow.
incredible. Yeah.
Oh, very
Nice.
cool.
So stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So think about, especially the the KFC and the Mountain Dew, like stuff that's not basketball.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know what's a good fit for you,
Mm-hmm.
and how does that relationship work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, everything is about being family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to cater to the younger crowd.
Sure.
Which is, I think, the big majority of my audience now is like the younger kids. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
So we're not gonna see you on the whiskey.
No.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, me as a Christian, myself is like more like pro Jesus. So
Sure.
obviously, that's gonna be pro family.
Okay.
Right.
So I try to stay in that lane. So anything could cater to that. Yeah. So I would probably wouldn't do like beer, alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
which have been offered more than a few times.
Mhm.
When somebody this underwear company approached me one time. It was like it was something like about like sagging your pants. I can't remember what the name of
Oh,
it, but
wow.
the brim was supposed to show like when
Uh-huh.
you sag your pants.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, and that's not even like horrible, you know what I
Right.
mean? But it just
Yeah.
wasn't a fit for
Doesn't
me.
it's
Right.
not you.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
sag. Now the new generation they sag like
Right.
below the crotch. Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's crazy. So.
Right. But in
For
your
sure.
mind, like, what's success? Like, let's say you did do something with Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know that partnership is a success? Is it because your fans were, like, really excited and they were commenting or engaging a lot with the content? Or was it because Mountain Dew was like, we just sold a shit ton of Mountain Dew?
I think it's both.
know?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. So now the analytics are off the charts. Like you can really track
Right.
things really down to a science.
Right.
As far as like how long did a person watch that video? At what point did they start to tune out? If there was a heavy like tune out rate, like you said, since we ran that campaign, what did sales look like? What did they
Right.
look like regionally according to his analytics? Where his demographic is actually at.
Yeah.
They can do it like so. So they
Right.
really analyze those on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And so I think it's both comments, likes.
What does that do
Viewership.
for you in terms of, like, your business planning and like if you're like that worked out really well, I want to do more of that. Are you like conscious of that, or you're just letting them approach you and then you're like, all right, let's do this?
No, I'm definitely conscious of it. So daily, I'm looking at analytics. Now I'm in the midst of trying to figure out who to sign with. These YouTube agencies are really big now.
Right.
They're not affiliated with YouTube, but they're the agents.
Right.
They're like the middlemen
Yep.
that would bring you advertising.
Sure.
Sure.
So it's like a huge thing. My deal was just up like early January with this other company I was with, and so now I'm looking to re-sign with another one, and so I got to take all those things into account.
Yeah. So if I was on your team, what is something I would hear you say a lot?
You hear me say a lot? Oh man.
Maybe I should ask these guys.
Yeah, you might want to ask them. I'm not sure. I'm always joking around, so I'm trying to figure out. I don't know, but I don't know. My thing, I think, as a teammate, I'm always trying to build. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's enough negative stuff you get all the time. So I know that for me to be the best teammate is to be somebody who's always like supporting my guys. So
Yeah.
I think it would be something along the lines of, good work, keep it up, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, and on the negative stuff, I mean, I know there's a lot of haters out there, and especially you're fighting the odds and you're doing stuff that's. I mean, I think there's haters out there for everybody. To be
Absolutely,
honest.
God with the haters.
Does it ever bother you?
When I was younger, it did.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I remember when I first came on, digital was just starting to get popular. and they used to have the chat rooms,
Oh,
the
yeah.
chat forums.
Those are the worst. They're like reading a slam book about
Yeah.
crap that people
so
say about you.
That was back then. That was like the current day comments,
Yeah.
basically
Yeah,
where you get
for sure.
the hate. And I remember reading stuff that was like negative about myself because in my own bubble at the time I was very green. So I'm hearing my family's encouraging,
course.
my friends are encouraging.
Yeah.
Everybody is like, "What are these people? Why do they have bad things to say about my looks and my hair?"
You're like, dude,
going
I
on?
like
What's
your
wrong with my hair?
style.
I can never satisfy. What's going on? So that was hurtful when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I think 4 or 5 years in, my early 20s, kind of like learned to embrace it.
Right.
And then now I don't even think about it. But what I've come to know is if you don't have people who are like threatened by like what you do or like, and I don't want to say offended, but if you don't have people who are saying something negative, I think that it's safe to say that your stuff really isn't that big of an entity because
Right.
I learned that it's human nature. Once something gets to big enough to a point, then other people are going to feel threatened because it's like they want that same
Of course.
title too.
For sure.
So even my cousin, he started, I shouted him out a few times that he plays basketball. We're trying to get him ready to play JUCO.
Okay.
And so on his social media platform, he started to get some haters.
Is that right?
On his Instagram.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to educate him, like, listen, don't worry about that stuff. Don't acknowledge it.
Right.
Don't do anything. All that means is now you're prevalent enough to where some people, wish they were in that spot or,
Right.
Right.
are going to say some negative stuff.
So do you censor yourself knowing that you have this audience that's paying attention is gonna you can like see the hate come before it gets you, like does that enter your process at all when you put stuff out there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, with certain things. I mean, yeah, I think when I think of video concepts or different things I'm going to upload, I'll be like,
Right.
oh, you know what? Crowd give me a hard time. We went there. I was like, let's stay away from
Yeah.
that. Because I think you still want to satisfy your audience.
Sure.
But you got to know that you can't satisfy everybody.
Right.
So it does, it definitely crosses the mind,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes you probably just got to do stuff anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's like, whatever,
Right.
Hate's going to come. We don't have time to go back and change that. It's over now, so whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know we were talking a little earlier about music, and you're saying And1 is really, was really like the synonymous with hip hop culture. Is that still true? I know hip hop has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Who's some favorite DJs you've seen come perform, or rappers that you've had at the shows?
I'm trying to think. I mean, over the years, there's been tons, man. I mean, a lot of people got their start with like our genre.
Yeah,
I
for
remember
sure.
like Paul Wall. He was like a big fan
That's
of our
crazy.
stuff, and he was like a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was like, "Bro, can I have your jersey after the game?" I was like, "Sure." Here you go. And I was like, "Why does the kid have a grill?" This is like before
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
popular.
yeah.
I was like, "This dude has gold teeth." And then I remember like Joel Santana, like Dipset got their start on our tour
Uh-huh.
back
Yeah.
in the day. E40 was big with our stuff.
Yeah.
Even like Snoop Dogg was on some of the mixtapes back in the day. So there's been a bunch. I mean,
What about lately?
from the new? I'm not as like a lot of these people. I don't even know who they are. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not as in on like the new like
The
rap
mainstream.
culture or whatever. I mean, I know like the mainstream people you hear about regular, but a lot of people take part in our genre, whether they're coming to the games or follow on Instagram or whatever the case. So,
Right.
Do you ever get starstruck? You see somebody at a game where they come up to you afterwards and you
They're a fan.
like,
That would be crazy.
I would say as much starstruck, but it's sometimes cool if you appreciate someone's work.
Sure.
And you see them in person, and then when you find out they're a fan of yours, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Recently, I think like less than a year ago, in 2013, did a series of games overseas with Allen Iverson, and he was like the player in middle school and high school I used to mimic my game after.
Yeah.
Loved his game. And then we were having conversations. I come to find out that he was a big fan of our genre.
Nice.
And he had been following my videos for a long time. He said his sons actually like watched the Spider-Man thing, and they were really taken by it. And he was going on and on, like talking about it for hours. He's asking me about this, and I'm sitting there tripping out because I'm like, he's a Hall of Famer. This is who I
Yeah.
grew up
Surreal.
watching.
Yeah.
So that was sort of surreal, and that was very cool.
That's cool.
But yeah, I don't think if you're, I guess starstruck, sometimes that I kind of
Yeah.
think about that as unhealthy. You know
Sure.
what I mean? It's like your values with another human is a little
Right.
too much. You know what I mean? But I think it's cool to like, for somebody whose work you appreciate to kind of be a mutual fan. It's pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
You talked about I saw an article. You talked about playing basketball with Woody Harrelson.
Oh yeah.
And so who's the? And you said he was not bad for an actor.
Yeah.
Who else? Who's the best actor or non-basketball player that you've seen on the court?
I think Chris Brown. Chris Brown
Nice.
likes basketball a lot.
Yeah.
So played with Chris a bunch of times. When he was actually when he was 16 years old, he played on our tour. I think in like 2005 or 6.
Is that right?
He came and played. He would like play on the And1 tour. Like they'd let
Okay.
him play in the game for like a few games
Wow.
at a time, just because
Yeah.
he was like a fan of it. You know, a popular thing. But I think it was like a marketing move for him or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
He wasn't as popular then, but he had a following. And then even like current day, like they do like the Power 106 game here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was injured, a shoulder thing, so
Right.
I didn't play, but I went. And we caught up, talked, and then when he used to live in Santa Monica, and we used to play at this open gym all the time. So
Yeah.
so I would say he's probably the best entertainer because
Nice.
he kind of like lives the culture. Like he would probably play basketball anyway if he wasn't making
Sure.
music.
I saw Mystical play not too long ago, maybe last year. Oh, it's terrible.
Oh.
But his son is
Not
really
good?
good. His son is really good.
Really?
It was so funny. I was like, who keeps passing this guy the ball? But it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw it in Phoenix during Super Bowl weekend. I think
Okay.
they had like a little.
Like a little celebrity game?
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, let's promote the socials. Where can everybody find you?
Oh, definitely. You got to check me out on YouTube at Professor Live, Instagram at Global Hooper, Facebook Professor Live, Snapchat. I'm trying to go hard on Snapchat.
Yeah.
It's at Global Hooper 12
Okay.
on Snapchat.
And then
But they mainly need to follow BallUp at Instagram. Follow BallUp on YouTube.
nice. And then got handles.
And God Handles, and if you really want to get serious with it, you follow the at God Handles Nation on Instagram and make a video.
Nice.
We
Awesome.
post every video.
That's so cool.
Professor, thanks for being here,
Yeah,
man. I
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, all right, thanks for listening. That was my man, the Professor. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I really enjoyed talking to him. And before I leave you, don't forget to visit us on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review or a 6-star review. Hey, do you have an idea for a guest you'd like to hear on Rebel Radio? If there's someone on your mind that you want to hear me interview, drop us a note. Send us a tweet at Rebel Radio Net or a message on Facebook or shoot me a paper airplane and we'll try to get them on the show.